I have 6:33. I will call to order the regular meeting of the Green Mountain Water Sanitation District, April 8th, 2025. Start with roll call. Karen Morgan present.
Dave Wickman present. Roger Wendell present. Randy Little present.
We have a quorum. Thank you much. Are there any disclosure matters for tonight? I don't see any changes to the agenda. I don't see any. So we are on to public comment, where we will have a limit of 5 minutes per person. And I will start with those in the room. Would you like to start us off? Nothing from you tonight? Karen, would you like to start?
Sure.
You have 5 minutes to speak.
I'm Karen Gorday. I'm a resident of Lakewood. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I wanted to say right off the bat, I'm not someone who's anti-growth. However, I do believe that development in general needs to have a common sense approach. And because Lakewood as a whole is not going to go back to being a sleepy bedroom community. I am here tonight, however, to talk about the Ben project. And we all know the history of the land, and the government records aren't really the best. But we do know, however, that parts of the federal center has serious toxic contamination. So much so that the northern portion of the 59 acres of the Ben project has a do not disturb order down to 100 feet under the ground, as well as a groundwater land use restriction. And when I look at the project plans, it's really hard to tell if development activities will be lot line to lot line, because I'm not the plan expert. But recent projects in Lakewood have been approved lot line to lot line, so that tells me that's a very real possibility. And while I realize the southern portion of the project is deemed safe, even if the northern portion's in a different phase, is it possible during those early phases that that land is disturbed? And so my questions are as follows. Is the northern portion of the land clearly delineated at the surface on this property? In other words, when the earth moving equipment gets on site, will they inadvertently disturb the northern portion of the land because they're unsure where that starts? I don't think it is, because I drove out there. So are there plans to make the developer fence off that northern portion, or plans to cover the land with something so that the soil's not disturbed in any way? Has the land specifically been tested for the 26 chemicals, 12 of which are known to cause cancer, that were listed in the consent order back in 1996 and 1997? And if not, why not? And then the developer has said that if they come across something, we'll stop what we're doing. But the problem is, unless there's like a 50-gallon drum or something else is discovered, the presence of the chemicals is going to be invisible. So why are we taking that chance? So knowing that there's a history of toxic chemicals at the Denver Federal Center, I don't think this is a case where we should be taking chances. What if there's toxic chemicals there and they get into the air or water? This could potentially affect the entire area, not just the Ben property. And this is where I say a common sense approach should be taken. I feel before this is approved and moving forward, that additional testing should be done versus a, oops, we made a mistake, and as a result, an entire community gets sick. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody online like to speak? You can raise your hand. Ludmilla.
Dan, got you your.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. How's everybody doing? I saw David back there waving. Hello, David. Hello, everyone. I'm having burritos tonight, homemade. Isn't that great? What are you guys having? Anything good? I was going to be really mean tonight, and I still might be. I still might be. I just wanted to let you guys know I made a lot of phone calls on 12/11. A few people, senators, remarked, we got to get busy. I don't know if we're going to win this one. This is ridiculous. Very few remarks made back. A lot of them were just, they're very mean. They don't even remark back. But anyway, we need to do more calling. Let's get on them. I don't know if you guys have been calling the senators now for the tap fee. I hope so, because it's been I do like 6 of them, and then I do another 6. I think there's 33 senators, not counting Bridges. I think Bridges is one of the sponsors of the bill or whatever. But it's been hard to get a hold of anyone, and I did get a hold of 2 of them that were really, really good. But anyway, so I think I'm going to read what I wrote down. I'm just okay. Let me get it. I am going to be mean. So, it's ironic that Responsible for Water now just popped up recently to recommend candidates for Green Mountain Water. A word of warning to the 3 candidates endorsed by Responsible for Water. Be careful, as your running mate 4 years ago ran with another running mate and has now pushed his ex-running mate under the bus and stabbed him in the back. I have been present at the majority of the meetings, and as such, I do not endorse these 3 current board members, as they are never prepared when they come to the meetings. They do not do the research. They ask the same questions over and over again. Instead of making appointments with the employees to answer their questions, they waste valuable time at the meeting. They constantly sit and conspire to belittle the president. They try to elevate themselves and not Green Mountain Water. I endorse Roger Wendell for board member of the Green Mountain Water. Roger has grown in his position, and he tries to do the best for Green Mountain Water. I told you I was going to be mean. Anyway, that's all I have. Good luck. Good night.
Thank you much. Anybody else online like to raise their hand? I don't see anybody. Last chance, going once, twice, and closing public comment. Thank you, everybody, for speaking. We are on to approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion or a motion to approve?
That's right. Make a motion to approve the minutes. Spit that out twice.
Excellent motion made by Director Little. Is there a second?
I second it.
Second by Director Martinez for both the February 11th and March 11th minutes. Any discussion? Any against? No, motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Financial report.
Okay. So for the period of January, February, and March of this year, we've had nearly $5 million in revenue for that 3-month period. Operating expenses have been just a little over $3 million. And again, wanted to mention that a lot of this information is not yet available on the website. And it's due to some technical requirements for the American Disabilities Act and other issues. The point being, again, you can contact me or any of the staff if you need more of the details. I kind of glossed over the big points after having gone over the financials in preparation for each of these meetings, mostly talking about things that catch my eye. As I mentioned, we had just about $5 million in revenue. We're financially solvent despite financial markets as this time. And a big thanks goes to Doug, our accountant, and also, quite frankly, to the state of Colorado, in that we're not allowed to be speculative in our investments. We're required basically to be very conservative, seeking safety first. And Doug has been a big asset this past year that he's got us into a couple of CDs, or quite a few CDs rather, with pretty good interest rates at this time. We're averaging between about 3.6 and 4.5% return on the CDs that Doug guided us through. Kind of breaking down some of these revenues a little bit, just in round general terms. A lot of our revenue came, 26% of our revenues came from sewer charges. Another 28% from water sales, 33% from service fees, and then roughly the remaining 13% or so miscellaneous income. As far as expenses, cost of water for this same period, January, February, March, was about 35% of the total that I mentioned earlier, and that's actually down a little bit. I think water usage for this period is maybe somewhere around 6% less than the same period last year, somewhere in there. Other expenses include about 28% of all those totals for expenses went into sewer treatment. 20% of all expenses went into employee salaries, taxes, and benefits. The remaining 17% miscellaneous expenses for all kinds of different things the district is involved in. But in a nutshell, what I wanted to emphasize this time around, markets are extraordinarily unstable as we speak. This district remains solvent. We're not floating any debt. We've got millions of dollars in surplus. And if we continue to act prudently, we can maintain that in the interest of our customers here on Green Mountain. That's my report.
Thank you, very thorough as usual. I have during a motion regarding the financials. Rick, did you see there was one large bill for new legal expenses from Holland and Hart?
Right.
And so we will do that separately from this, but the point of that was, and I was waiting for we spent too much money on legal, so I could jump on the bandwagon this time.
We have discussed vehicles at length. That doesn't mean we
Yeah.
can't continue discussing it, but
There was one invoice for $40,000 for new legal expenses that came up for questions. It is my understanding that it was the questions that came through Director Rickman last time. That is an extraordinary amount of money for one set of questions. So I'm going to suggest that I will have a motion after this to say we will not be invoiced. Holland and Hart can no longer be invoicing us without prior approval. We will not be going through them. We have to go through the primary legal, which is kind of what we said before. We already had a motion that we weren't going to be using them and bring them in anymore without going through, but we need to make that a firmer motion. So other than that, that is my discussion about the financial report that will go on a separate motion. But I would entertain a motion to approve the rest of the financials.
I move so.
Okay. Thank you, Director Whitdell. Is there a second to the motion to approve the daily and monthly operating expenses and investment reports?
I'll second that.
Second by Director Little. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? And that's unanimous approval. Thank you much. So as I was saying, that is one significant bill. That is a whole rate study. That's a whole, so we need to do some kind of cap. So this is my motion is to instruct Holland and Hart to incur no new expenses. We can always come back if there is a driving need for this. The board would approve that we are going to re-engage them and do something. They're still on retainer. I'm not closing off anything, but we need to make sure that there are some limits and caps because it is not happening organically at this point. So motion to.
Is that the motion open discussion?
That's the motion. Want to make sure that was clear because I discussed as I was motioning.
No, I mean, say something about that.
The motion is to incur no new legal expenses through Holland and Hart.
I would change that to any attorney, not just Holland and Hart. I think, I agree $40,000 is outrageous.
Okay,
But I also agree that any attorney or anybody that we're trying to do business with should give us a quote before they go forward. So I mean, it's not just Holland Hart, anybody. So, yeah, I agree, I mean, but we approved it. We
We-
moved forward with it. We didn't ask at the time. We should have asked at the time.
maybe we should have asked, but I think that's what I'm saying. There's a responsibility
To us,
factor
all of us.
to say, I approved asking some questions. I
Sure.
didn't approve $40,000
I agree
worth
with
of
you.
questions.
I
That's-
agree. I
you-
think they got a little carried away.
They got carried away and the repetitive questions got carried away.
Well,
And that's
they-
part of it too. So it's not all their fault.
No, but it should be that your motion is correct. I agree with your motion.
Okay,
I just say any attorney,
I don't know if that's feasible just because we do not have that relationship with,
we can
For-
ask.
for example,
You may not say yes, but we can ask.
this is ongoing billing
Right.
items.
I
So
agree.
we get $40,000 worth of work and I do not remember. There are times when we will go over that. for
Yeah,
them.
we asked another attorney. The other attorney, what it would cost, that was the people that were here. What it would cost to do this, and they told us approximately this amount.
That was for a job.
I think that any job or any questions we ask like that, we should have approved. That way there's no lingering, well, God, you charge us way too much.
Okay, that, okay.
I just think you should add it, every attorney. That's my discussion. Leave it up to you guys. I may be wrong.
Well, I
Sure.
understand what you're saying. I think practical terms. I will ask Dylan. I asked Dylan a lot of questions. He hasn't charged me $40,000 for it, and I don't anticipate that happening, but it could be, because I ask a
You
lot of
might
questions.
slip one in there.
No, I need to, but if I have said things like, if it takes more than 5 minutes, and we started that in the beginning, I don't say that anymore, but I know he's not going to be doing that. So I started off being conscious of costs.
Sure,
But if I need to get a quote every time and we need to come to the board every time and get a quote approved, we will not be able to answer any questions except on a month, every month
the
basis.
reason behind my thing is, I'm just bringing this out. I talked to my son, which is an attorney.
Mhm.
He charges a lot more than Holland Hart does. And I says, is that feasible to spend $40,000? Oh, pocket change. He says, we do that all the time. I said, people ask you for a quote all the time. He said, most people that are doing business with any attorney will ask, okay, we want you to research this. What is it gonna cost? A rough guesstimate, not perfect, rough.
Okay. And
So
that's,
that's
I
what
will, agree. So if
Okay.
we want to stipulate for research projects,
anything.
if it's something, that's what I can't agree with anything. Because there's lots of questions and that's why we have an attorney on standby to answer all of our questions and. we
But this
come up-
was a project you asked Dave to do.
Actually, no, it's not. No, he said, I still have some questions. And I said, sure.
And you said, go ahead.
And I said, go ahead and make sure it ran through Dylan.
So he did.
And he did it go through Dylan first.
And it was Holland Hart's fault for charging us $40,000.
And it was Dave's fault for one, not going through Dylan first. And two,
No, you told him in the meeting, I
asking-
could go back on the tape, you told him to go to Holland Hart and ask us
you
questions.
can go to Holland and Hart.
He did.
What he did was, and I will say, you asked for this, in my opinion, because you asked repetitive questions that they answered several times. They answered several times. So at this point, when they have answered you that many times and you're still asking the question, then they say, okay, I'm gonna throw the book at you. And they did, and they threw the book at us, and that's what happened. It is not that they went overboard. They could have answered the question in 5 minutes. They did answer the question in 5 minutes. They answered the question in several executive sessions with us in 5 minutes.
But I saw the briefing from you.
Did
And I
you?
got
How
a
did
lot,
you-
I got a lot more out of that briefing than we've ever talked about in this.
Where did you see
meeting.
that? Cause
They sent it to us. I got the bill and the what was said in that, how many, 10-page, 15-page bill from
Okay.
what they replied by. And
okay,
there's one item in there that.
cause I didn't,
There was one
I
item
had
in
to
there
ask
that
for it.
cost $40,000 that that was the best advice I ever heard of.
Okay, I saw nothing new in that
Well, then I'll
advice.
send you the copy of it.
I mean, I saw the advice and I saw everything, I saw a lot of the questions that came from you. The point is that I think there's equal blame. I don't think
I agree.
it's feasible to have an ask. Get every question a quote first.
It's not the question, it's the subject matter. I mean, it's not,
Okay.
not one question, okay, Dylan, I'm gonna ask you to do something for me. You know, this is, I mean, and you're probably gonna give me a
Okay.
10-page summary of what it may be. What is that gonna cost me? That's not a legitimate question to ask. It's not a question, I mean, you don't have to bring it in front of the board. You can come back, I can come back and say, okay, I talked to Dylan, this is gonna cost me $40,000. Do we wanna approve that thing before I tell him to go ahead? That's common practice. So that's the only thing I'm requesting. I'm not saying that we did anything wrong. I'm not saying, but I'm saying in the future, if I'm gonna ask him to do something, I need to speak, you know, and say, hey, what is this gonna cost us? And I don't need to get the board's approval. I just need to let you all know when he's, oh, no, I'm not gonna do that, or, oh, yes, I'm gonna do that. Then I can set and go forward. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Well,
Right.
I would caution you
Yeah.
on that approach, because that gets sort of perilous like most of being a meeting. Or
A what?
a meeting, or formal board action.
You're right, you gotta do it I agree, then you'd have to vote on it.
Right.
I mean, I agree with that. But I think that's when you're spending $40,000, we should know what we're getting out of this.
So I have the billing here and I'm gonna sign the check here in a moment. It's 41,000 and just looking through it briefly, and I do this with all of our billings from attorneys, try to figure out what we're paying for, and to be honest, it all looks very legitimate to me. I
Yeah.
often can't really tell exactly what's going on, but this one's the exception. The exact same questions are repeated a number of times. So I don't know why.
There's a question on this?
Yeah, they'll have the questions, sure,
What's the question?
down below in the invoice portion. But, you know, they've repeated the takings question 3 or 4 times.
They
And they
do,
charge us for them.
they do.
Well,
In this
that's an
case,
attorney too, they charge every
I
time.
mean, I
it's
can't
me.
blame them, that's their business.
this is their business and
Why
I'm not,
are we doing this?
and I don't think that there is. I am sure that given this board makeup, that you would have gotten 3 votes to charge $100,000 for repetitive questions on anything to do with the bend, if there was a chance of delaying this. I think there is nobody would dispute that we would spend time and money on these questions. By the majority of the board, but the other,
On this repetitive stuff. We've talked a number of times and you tell us a number of times. And I know last time in October, November, whatever, we got a bill for $20,000 from a electric car. On a lot of these issues. And they indicated that they talked to you a lot. Well, that's fine if they did, but for the rest of us, all we're getting is that you say they said this, they say something in a meeting. And the point I was emphasizing on in writing is we avoid the possibility of misunderstandings. We need to get these things in writing. And a lot of those questions we're doing, I mean, we got different results than, than I expected. They gave us some advice on things to look into. Now, am I happy with $40,000? No, but considering how important the issue is, in the final analysis, that could be penny wise, pound foolish. It could save us a lot more money in the long run.
to be clear, I've never talked to them outside of an executive.
I mean, we spent
This is it.
$40,000 on an attorney down at the Capitol. And what has he done for us? Not much,
The lobbyist?
the lobbyist.
The lobbyist is working daily, very hard for us, actually. So, and that's and this is what I mean, this is the same amount
Yeah.
that we do for
But I
other
haven't seen a
cases.
report on what he's doing for us at all.
Okay.
The,
We will have a report from
Okay.
you in about
I'm just-
20 minutes
I'm just
after this.
I'm just asking.
It's coming, it is working,
okay,
and they
gotcha.
are going.
gotcha.
The other way to do this, and which I thought about to begin with, is just to say, if you're going to contact the attorneys, have a note to do like I did. If it's gonna take more than half an hour, if it's gonna take more than $1,000, I
I'm not
Need to
looking for
know.
this. Yes. This is what I want, a quick and dirty, unless we are authorizing a big project.
I agree 100%.
Just an addendum to emails that get asked.
I agree 100%.
Yes. I surely do not,
On this,
Okay.
on the motion before us. This is the first time we're hearing about it. I made this point before. You want to make a motion, let's hear it. We can vote on it the next time. Now it's like, I've got this thing, it's like, you don't want to hear from them, you don't want to hear what they've got to say. You're unhappy. Now we have to instantly vote on it. Is there some reason why we can't vote on this next month?
yes, because you spent $40,000 last month,
We
which,
spent 40,000.
which is, in my opinion, irresponsible. This has been on the agenda, and for the person who repeats and comes up every freaking meeting that you need to have a new study session and a new study session and a new delay, and we're gonna do something new, and you bring it up, that's not on the agenda, and you refuse to do things that are on the agenda, I see absolutely no problem voting on a duly noticed motion.
Anyway, I find it a rather chilling effect. You didn't like what they had to say.
I did not say that. I said it was repetitive and you were trying to put words in my mouth. No, I said it was repetitive.
And again, as far as repetitive, I don't know. If they said something at a meeting, maybe they did.
Maybe they
My,
did.
my point is, I want a written record.
And fine, we are getting round in a circle and repeating again, the repetitive things. So would you feel more comfortable if I made the motion for? I'm sorry, let me ask. First, Director Little, you feel more comfortable saying with any request to a lawyer, if it takes more than $1,000 on this request?
Yes.
Okay, I will say that then, to any lawyer to communicate.
To any,
With that-
not so much lawyers, but any business. I mean,
Okay, we wouldn't be under, that we are not under contract to anybody
No,
else, so this
we're
only,
asking you to do something they're charging.
this only applies to currently.
Right.
Dylan's firm, is it Cody Marshall, where's Cody Word? Cody
We
Word,
asked his
And-
partner to do something, I think and he gave us a quote of kind of what he thought it might cost us, that was understood, we all understood what he said.
okay, but they will be working on all of these things
That's
for
fine,
us,
that's fine.
okay,
I'm just saying that, you know, if we ask
Okay.
anybody to say, I wanna spend
something new.
$20,000. And it's gonna cost us $20,000, we all should know about it.
and that's going to apply to just those two people, because those are the only two business relationships we have that
If
could,
he asks us to buy several new trucks, he has to ask us for
okay,
approval. Right?
I am
So, yeah, that's the only thing I'll make.
fine with retracting my original motion, and the motion will be to add a line to any communications with lawyers on email or phone to say, this is should only be authorized, only authorized to incur up to $1,000 in costs.
That's fine.
Okay,
Any communications limited to $1,000 in costs
any communications that limited to,
without prior approval.
okay. Good, any communications limited to, what do you think, Dylan? Does that cover it? Does that leave us room to operate during the month?
I can work with that.
Okay. For example, we did have to do in the middle of a month, ask you for a legal analysis of extraterritorial service on 12/11.
Yes. And. So hearing what you said, when John came and talked about the expenses.
Right.
For that litigation. Which was an executive session, so I'm not gonna get into the details
Right.
there, but the numbers that he gave you were for the entirety of the project.
Right.
So in any given month, that's gonna be a few $100s, a few $1,000s, it'll vary, and then over the course.
So he had an overall picture of what it was gonna cost.
Right,
That's all.
and so I can tell you, from a general counsel perspective. Similarly, the amount that I bill each month varies depending on, type and amount of work that I has to do. So particular questions. So it is a little different with general counsel because it's not a project, it's ongoing representation.
Correct.
So I can give you sort of the ballpark on monthly expenses.
in my opinion, you're a little bit outside the realm of this question. You're an internal, or you're our internal consultant. These people are outside attorneys.
But we didn't draw that distinction. You specifically
I'll draw
said
that.
you wanted to include.
I'll draw that extinction.
Okay,
I mean, for something like he's internally,
okay,
he's ongoing billing us every
Yes.
month. That's a different subject than it is for, we're asking an outside attorney firm or outside company to do something for us. We need to get an idea what that's gonna cost. I
okay,
would have turned down $40,000 in a heartbeat.
okay.
I wouldn't even question it.
So right now it's just
But
limited to comment.
I'm not gonna turn down Dylan for doing his job
Okay,
that we ask him on an ongoing basis. Does that make sense?
Aren't you on a permanent retainer?
Well,
There you go.
I just wanted to clarify, yeah, so I'm not an employee.
Right, you're not,
I-
you're
I'm
a representative.
Yeah, so I'm an agent of the district,
Right.
but not an employee.
No, I agree with that.
But yeah, there's no. Strictly speaking, I'm not on a retainer. I just bill.
We get a bill every month from you, I'm assuming.
Yes.
We don't see any $40,000 coming in for.
No.
For something saying, oh, well, I talked to you in the meeting, it took me 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
But
These are
I
outside
do
attorneys.
bill you monthly.
Of course.
Yes, and it's an ongoing representation.
Of course.
Yes.
I'm talking about outside
Retainer, I mean, you are
businesses,
considered.
or attorneys or anybody.
Expertise.
Yes.
And we have a written contract with you on there. That's where we are retaining you as our legal expertise.
Yes, but I'm not on staff. That was.
No,
that was
That-
the point.
yeah,
You're
I
not-
understand.
But you are. Licensed.
Yes, I'm your general counsel.
Your general counsel. Therefore, he should be cut outside of this, because we should be able to go to him, talk to him. And we would get it. He's reasonable, he understands us, and he's not gonna come back with a $1,000 bill.
well, that was my original point of the original motion, was to say, yeah, it's not him, it's just these other guys.
Yeah, the other guys, which you really don't have any to say so.
And we don't have any other business relationships right now with attorneys
We
to,
do have a relationship.
for this
Well,
to
one
apply
of,
to,
one of the subjects that costs us $40,000
right?
is their recommendations, or there's one of the big representations that we hire an outside firm to tell us what maybe I shouldn't say this until executive session.
Well, there is a recommendation to hire an engineering firm.
And there's
to
also,
provide analysis.
there's also a recommendation to hire another firm to give us a quote on one of the things we're asking. I'll say that much.
Yes.
And leave it at that.
Engineering firm,
I don't know if it was an engineer or I thought it was an
not
attorney.
attorneys.
Okay, well, anyway, that's a project that is, we need to find out how much this is gonna cost us.
Okay, well, we can talk about,
That later.
okay.
Yeah, I agree. Okay,
Another question, what about like our situation where we had Ogburn and whatever they call themselves? And that was tens of thousands of dollars. And I don't recall that we were voting every couple of weeks on what they were doing. How did that work?
but did they tell you what this was gonna cost us, or did they,
That was another.
well,
litigation
surprises?
cost. No, I mean, we knew that it was going to be outrageously expensive every month. I think that
Okay,
sums
well,
it up.
that, as long as we knew,
Yes,
surprise of $40,000, like, whoa. Yeah, I could answer that question for half that much.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'm getting.
Okay.
Okay, leave it at that.
Anyway, in addition to, like I said, I think we're being kind of hasty to try to get on this right now. I'm finding it very chilling, but I don't generally ask attorneys for much into it. And so the one time I did it, it's like exaggerating, but one of the only times I did it at a public meeting. I got the approval from the board to do that. Now, of course, I had no idea it's gonna be $40,000. And I think that was probably outrageous, but it's kind of a chilling fact that you're saying, no, you can only ask the questions that I want because you determine whether it's competitive or not. And
again,
I know, for competitive, yeah.
you are putting words into my mouth. I never said I had to pre-approve any questions. Did anybody hear me say I had to pre-approve any questions?
Okay, well, I know you think my questions are inappropriate because they're competitive. And so it feels like you're trying to stop me from getting the legal advice I need to make good judgments. And I'm not sure if that's really appropriate. Very chilling effect.
I don't know I don't know what to tell you, Dave. You will ask the same question again, probably in half an hour. So I feel no doubt that there's no chilling effect going on. But what the point here is a $40,000 outrageous bill that even you say you were not expecting, and we need to have some level of accountability for that. And if you were not expecting that, and we were not expecting that, then maybe somebody should figure out how to either expect it or to limit that so that we don't have that kind of irresponsible spending in the face of all of our other legal bills.
Well, then another thing comes to mind, I'm wondering if we'd gone back at that meeting and said, okay, let's get a quote on that. By definition, we would now have to wait another month for the quote to come back, and we would be hit for, we're delaying again. I was trying to get an answer to these things ASAP in a written format to cover us on a very important issue. You know, we have to have all our ducks in a row, and even though 40,000 is far more than what I wanted to spend.
41,000. But seriously, don't we have a responsibility towards the district to spend money wisely? Why would you keep repeating the question? And it's verbatim in the billing. If you'd like to read it, you repeated the question numerous times. Why?
I also think that's a request of our treasurer. Our treasurer handles the money. He should be asking these questions about how much is this gonna cost? He should contact Holland and say,
It's a lot of money,
Dave,
Well, it is, but there's.
but you don't seem to care.
Oh, I do. It's penny wise, pound foolish. If this $40,000 saved us from a multi-million-dollar lawsuit down the road, like a Love Canal or something like that, that could be money well spent. But if I'm trying to nickel and dime this, I think that's shortchanging our people.
But if you're intentionally slow walking this issue, well, we're going to get sued. It's guaranteed.
Well, we already are sued.
Yeah, we're being sued. You can't slow walk these issues.
well, I have to
It's
say.
against the law.
He's not slow walking the issue.
I think, you know, the issue is, and I still don't think that there's anything prohibiting questions. And if you need to come back, and if you're gonna say that you've got justification for $40,000, like I said, I don't think. Even if you can convince me, but I don't think you will have a problem getting 3 votes to do it. And you originally brought those written questions to a board meeting, didn't ask them, and you delayed it to the next month. I don't see any problem in doing this. So outside of this set of questions that we were moving on from, we've got answers. Does anybody have problems with this set of questions and moving on? We can move on. The question is, for the next set of questions, can we have a simple limit of $1,000?
And I, as I mentioned just 2 seconds ago, I think it should be the responsibility.
Unless voted by the board.
Yeah, that's
And you will get-
straightforward.
That's straightforward. Okay,
I think,
But Dylan is outside that.
okay.
I think that's a red flag though. I really do believe that one of us, I mean, we're a board, you're the president, you're the facilitator of this, we're all equal in our votes. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, but I think we have a treasurer here that says, okay, that's a red flag to him. We're gonna spend money with the lawyer. How much is that lawyer gonna cost us? He could call that lawyer up and say, hey, Dave presented you with questions. What do you feel that this is gonna cost? An estimate. And he could come back and say, oh geez, that's gonna cost us $40,000. We'd all say no. We would have, I would have, you would have, everybody would have. But I think somebody has to take charge of that. Either the person that's asking the questions, if it's me or Dave or anybody, we need to ask that question, okay, here's what we want you to do, just give me a rough ballpark of what this is gonna cost. Now, you know, you can tell them I have a limit of $1,000.
Great.
That's fine, that's it.
I think that gives us a couple different mechanisms to work
Right.
with, so I appreciate the discussion and the ideas for how to move forward.
I will
So-
second your motion that you made after we discussed it.
The motion being that any communications with lawyers are limited to $1,000 without prior approval of the board, exempting our in-house counsel.
He has to have 2 votes. No.
2 events.
2,
Yeah. Is that,
That's
I
fine.
don't know, in-house counsel, general counsel,
Okay.
seconded by Director
second.
Little. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Director Wickman opposes, everyone else is in favor, motion passes, thank you. Okay, on to only our third item of the evening, district manager report.
Well, we had a busy month of March in regard to main breaks. We had a 4-inch cul-de-sac main break for ground movement, pretty typical for this time of year. I'm sure everybody's aware of the main break we had on Union and Arkansas Place. We have 12-inch main running down Union there that's at the bottom of the pressure zone. It split about 12 feet into a T that goes into the cul-de-sac and caused quite a bit of damage to Union. So much so with the proximity of the gulch right next to it, some water went down into a neighboring district in Bancroft Clover. And had some water damage to some of the homes down there. Our crew responded very quickly. We got the water under control. The crew worked for about 21 hours. We had some people off. So in order to keep them safe and be able to respond to the next issue, if there was one to come up, we brought in a contractor to help out. Which was a great service to the district. They were very accommodating. They came out right away. The homeowners were back in the water fairly quickly once we got out the job done. We haven't received a bill from them yet, but it's gonna be a little bit of a help.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. Everybody's very accommodating. They understood what was going on. We were communication lines open with the people that were affected, and there's a temporary patch out there now. Once the asphalt plants start making the mix design that is required for that roadway, we're gonna have probably a curb to curb 40 by 60 foot, whatever it is, patch there.
Isn't that considered an act of God, though?
It is.
It wasn't caused by anybody, it just
Aging infrastructure. There are a couple things that we could probably do to relieve some of the pressure off of that because it is at the bottom of the zone. It's serviced from tanks here and at Greenmount High School. It's all gravity fed down, so there's no pumps involved or anything like that to create pressure. It all is broken down through pressure reducing valves as it works its way downhill. So there's 2 points of connection. We could probably have some PRVs too, to probably take 30-40 PSI off. Which I think it's something we're gonna advance towards.
Where does the PRV valve release it into the stream?
It hits a valve and it forces a diaphragm to open up. So that restriction breaks the pressure going downstream. So it just kind of starts the pressure line over. A lot of them will break from, say, 90 PSI back down to 60, and then it starts regenerating the pressure as it moves down in elevation, a lot dropping. We also had a main break on 1086 South Fort Hill Drive due to a boring contractor. It's installing a legal fiber. They were using what they call a missile. It's a pneumatic probe that goes through to allow them to intercept their line that they bury to put like handhelds in where all the cables come in and they have kind of almost like a valve. In doing so, they ran that missile into our line and broke it. That caused a large amount of water to be released as well and flooded one of our customers down the street.
That Google?
to the contractor. So we've invoiced them for that repair. So that's completely covered. City Lake has been really helpful in this whole entire process with these contractors. This is probably the third hit we've had from them. And they put you on notice, they're very accommodating to us, they're shutting contractors down when things like this happen.
Why is it listed twice?
It, that's PowerPoint online for you, it's duplicated it, so I apologize for that, but,
You know, Josh, we've discussed in previous meetings, the fiber optics running over our lines. If the situation was reversed, we take priority, I assume, with water. If needed, we can interrupt a fiber line. I don't know if that issue would ever arise or not. It looks like on the street I live on, they almost cross over each other.
yeah, there are a lot of crossings, and that's pretty common in the public right of way, there's no dedicated easement for the water line, so it's kind of everybody gets to use the right of way. But Lakewood on their approvals, they are trying to find the best place to put their utility. Most of it has been on edge of right of way or behind curb to limit the access to the street, so. It's gonna be an ongoing problem moving forward as we replace water lines. For a while, we were doing remove and replace, which adds some cost because you have to run a temporary line setup to keep the people in service while you're replacing the line exactly where it was before. This year, we're gonna be doing some parallel work, which saves money, but it just creates more congestion in the right of way, so. You know, 20, 30 years from now, we're gonna be doing it again. And next time it might be sewer, it might be gas, like, so it's gonna be an ongoing issue. Lakewood's been pretty diligent. Keith, we've had a lot of communication with the lead engineer over there, and he's got all that in mind. As far as trying to find the best place to put their utility without existing utilities.
That helps, thank you.
Now, I know Lakewood has a combination of above ground power and below ground power lines. And are they, in those instances, installing the fiber from the poles available on the poles?
Yeah, there are some aerial drops. There's also,
So it's not, would not affect us
you know,
if they're doing those.
for the most part, there are some where they parallel, but there's about 5 foot of separation, which is pretty common practice. Which allows you to get in and maintain your utility without affecting the adjacent utility.
Just try to limit the potential for having conflicts with
Yeah.
our pipes. I know they can do it above ground if there are poles.
Yeah, the areas where there are poles or there's already easements that exist, so they're using those.
How deep is the sewer line anymore?
For Green Mountain, I would say between 7 to 9 feet.
Cause when they drill, I mean, like they put new telephone poles in my whole neighborhood, right on top of the sewer lines. And how deep do they drill for that pole?
I think it's 24 to 36 inches.
So they're not going down deep enough to get in the sewer.
No, and usually most poles are offset.
Offset.
Behind the curb, and we have very few utilities where we are already serious.
Well, my sewer line runs right off this property line,
Are you talking about the sewer service, or are you talking about the sewer main?
sewer main. Runs right up the center of the property, not the center of the property.
Oh, like where your backyard's coming
Yeah.
together? Yeah,
And but the pole, the telephone pole sits right on top of that sewer line.
yes, well, it's offset by like 3 or 4 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just check.
Yep. Most of those, yeah, 7 to 9 feet just for basements and things like that. And to get proper fall.
They're gonna get a lot of fiber into this lately, right?
The entire city.
And the entire city's getting, satellite for it.
Google.
Yeah, they shared a map with us a couple weeks ago, and there's a lot already completed in Lakewood and Green Mountain, so we're hoping we're seeing the other side of these issues. Moving forward.
And Google owns it.
Yeah. There's Google Fiber, and then there's Quantum Fiber. I think those are the two major players that are bringing new infrastructure.
So that
Well,
they
we're
both throw their own fiber lines, they both throw their own fiber.
Oh, a lot of them come above ground. You'll see in front of my house, I got 14 fiber lines. And it's about that big long cable that goes across my whole, I mean, wrecks the view of your house. But there's nothing you do about it because they own
The poles.
they own
Oh.
and a lot of that's going underground, but in my neighborhood, which is down by the federal center, is all above ground.
And you know, they have a process too, when you're doing like directional drilling, they have to do like plan profiling, so they have to physically locate every utility in the vicinity by drilling a hole through the asphalt, then they suck it out, get visual
Yeah.
confirmation, they measure it, and then their crossings, they have to have a minimum of 2 feet separation.
So when they do cause a problem, tell them they're dying.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this person who got flooded, decides to sue, who gets sued?
The contractor. The city of Lakewood's also been very helpful, or the engineering department with communicating these efforts to the Google Fiber contractors, so they're on this.
If you watch next door too, there's a lot of fiber that is going outside I mean, they just can't do it in the 6 foot easement. They have to go on people's lawns. And they're all up in arms, you know, they replace the lawn, they do everything, fix it. And, you know, they gotta put it in, so they gotta do what they gotta do. Anyway,
All right, any other questions on the operations part?
thank you.
Election status, we have a dedicated page on the website, that's constantly updated as things change. Right now, as we all know, there's 6 total candidates. The bios are now up online as well, those all got turned in. The notice of election will be published prior to the April 16th deadline, and we'll also post that on the district website. The ballots themselves will be delivered sometime between the 14th and the 21st. They're shooting for, I think, the 15th right now, just for invoiced for all the ballots to go out. The uniform and overseas absentee ballots went out on March 21st, so there was confirmation that those had that sentence. It's kind of.
Sorry to be repetitive, but as I understand it, you either mail it back to Clinton or over there in Denver, Sue Blair's place, or drop it off in the box.
Correct.
Yes. Now, my question for that repetitive is, what if people get confused and go, oh, there's a ballot box over at Green Mountain Rec Center? You know, looks like the same sort of box. I know the answer is no, but I'm assuming there's gonna be at least one that citizen to go, oh, that's where I left my last ballot. Maybe I should bring this one over there as well. Now, they might not be able to get in, or the point is, might be an issue.
Yeah, I can look into that and see if there's any other general elections going on that we can maybe notice.
There aren't. But the point is, it's there, it's physically sitting there. And for some people, that's gonna be, obviously, that's where all ballots go. Well, that's not obviously true, but somebody's gonna think that.
So I can answer that a little bit. If it's Jefferson County,
Yes,
if it's Jefferson County ballot box during a Jefferson County election, if they compile them and contact the DEOs of elections and coordinate pickups on a voluntary basis. If there is a Jefferson County ballot box and there is not a Jefferson County coordinated election going on,
Yes.
it would probably just sit there.
okay, well, there's not a coordinated election, so I think your answer is yes, it could be sitting in that box.
It probably will be sitting there. I don't think Jefferson County has a process of checking ballot boxes off season.
Why does one, did Sue do that on the last day or something? Or,
Check.
what's it? Well, I think the only one that's relevant is over here at the rec center, which, so yeah, very close. And maybe just put up a sign, don't be bringing your water ballot here, take it over to there. But I guarantee somebody's gonna do it.
Yeah, I expect that's true. I also expect that CRS has dealt with that. So they probably have a mechanism to deal with that. CRS being the DER.
So one of the questions I would have, you have 6 candidates running for election and nobody's running for 2 years. What do they do in that case?
What's,
You will have a vacancy.
You,
You're gonna have a vacancy as of May 6th for the 2-year term.
so 4 people would get elected and we'll just have a vacancy for the 2 years.
3 people.
3 people get elected. So what do you do when you have a slate of candidates who are running as a 4th, which makes it appear as if you've already got a nominee pre-coordinated for the 4th vacant position?
And
Can
I
I
was,
still appoint someone to fill a vacancy after May 6th?
You'll have to do that, but it will look as if it was.
the notice of election will have that stated on there that they'll be elected to run for the 2-year.
That's what it says right here.
Right,
my understanding is that in previous years, it was top people got the longest term. So in other words, if you got the top vote getter, you get the first 4 year, second vote getter gets the second 4 years, third one gets the third one. And whoever comes in 4th gets the leftovers, which is a 2-year term.
Not in special district elections. You submit your self-nomination form for one of the 2.
I don't remember.
I asked the DEO and she confirmed that nobody's running for the 2 years, so somebody will have to be appointed to that.
I'd have to double check. It seems.
and that's how Todd ran. He ran before as the 1-year Rhonda replacement when people dropped out. It was,
Something to look at.
Pretty quick here. And I think the obvious question was, nobody had the option of running for a 2-year seat. When you say fill it out. When we were filling things out, it was just you're running.
Yeah, I don't remember saying, are you running for 2 or 4?
Yeah.
It'll say on your,
I don't remember
it'll
that
say
at
on your
all.
self-nomination form. I self-nominate for a 4-year directorship or 2-year.
I'll have to look at it. I gotta look home still.
I mean, you're set for.
Yeah, I didn't see it 2 years.
I don't think it was
Box or,
I don't think it was an option.
and maybe you needed to ask for it.
yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, because most people.
Okay.
Need to know what you're running for.
But just round that conversation out, at the May board meeting. The May board meeting will be after the election, so you can make the appointment at that point. You don't have to, you may fill that vacancy at the May board meeting.
Well, I'm saying, I'm surprised, I was not aware of this. Okay,
The election before the board meeting, correct?
Correct.
It's like this notice here.
Any other questions on the election? Next item is a House Bill 1211 tap fee update. It was read across the Senate desk a few days ago. And was assigned to the Senate Local Government Housing Committee, and was scheduled to be heard tomorrow. Upon adjournment of their session, I will be going down for some testimony on behalf of Green Mountain. Are you?
I will be reading testimony on behalf of Katie Gill from Town of Morrison.
Okay. So we've engaged our lobbyists who have been working their channels. To just get word out, get fact sheet out, educate as much of the Senate as I possibly can. We've been setting out notices to our coalition and other special districts in the state of Colorado. We've had some very good feedback. They like to see the updates. It'll just be a matter of getting people down there to have their voices heard.
we talked a little bit about new bill sponsor.
There is a new sponsor, Senator Kirkmeyer
Barbara Kirkmeyer.
has signed on as a co-sponsor, or as a main sponsor, primary sponsor of the bill.
So they can now claim bipartisan support. Same person who sponsored the bill last year.
Is that why it was done? They're trying to get Republican voters? Well, why are they doing this?
That question I cannot answer. I don't know why she signed on. But what we were trying to do is, educate everybody with the facts, how it's gonna affect special districts, because it's only special districts that provide water and sewer services that are being affected by this. Municipalities are exempt at this time.
Right.
And I will say again that these guys are hardworking. This has been an effort, And it's been a team effort by a lot of people. I think our district is really working hard. And Josh and Sam come to the lobbyist meetings and they always have contributions. The lobbyists are really working. And they've gotten a lot of meetings. Providing a lot of support, and Dylan has been coming, thank you very much, because they always have legal questions on how to phrase things and what implications are, and so that has been going. Jesse, I think, has been putting out the newsletters, and we've been writing, and the lobbyists, they're not only asking, telling us what we could be doing to make things better, but like are really actively helping us on every step of the way. So it's been feeling like,
Extremely responsive. We asked them a question and within an hour, they're answering it. So it's been a very pleasant process
that
for
doesn't,
what we have to be doing.
that doesn't mean we have a chance. Like you said, that we're up against the chair of the Joint Budget Committee and the entire Democrat establishment, but who is, of course, in power, but it has been a good thing for us. So thank you. And then I also wanted to say again, we've had a lot of residents helping. Ludmilla said she's been calling residents up, senators, other districts have been calling senators. It's been in the news a couple times that the Northwell County and Larimer County, they have been pushing it. So there's been articles in the Sun and Newsline and Rocky Mountain Voice, and it's been around, and so we're doing all we can. It really makes me once again wonder why we support in any way the SDA, who has been no help here at all.
We've had that discussion before as well.
Yeah, talk about wasting money, I think, but anyway, thank you for letting me interject.
Well, there's no other questions on the House Bill subcommittee. Move on to development reviews. Not a lot has changed here. Butcher Miller, they've installed half of the water line. They're waiting for school to get out for the summer, then they'll finish the loop. And in conjunction, they're building the school, so there's a lot of moving parts over there. But half the infrastructure and the other half will go in this summer. So that'll be completed. 12364 West Alameda. The engineering firm we used to deploy the meters checked in. They had an issue with some data collection. So we've extended that the data collection period to make up for that lost data. They're ahead of 533 in the queue. So once that data is completed, we move on down to the next development that's requesting data, which is the 533 Van Jordan III with a one athletic release. Proposal for the hotel at 12476 West Bayonne, up there by 66 Van Gordon, or Van Gordon Street and Cedar, that vicinity. The sewer monitors for their development are out, they've been collecting data right now.
That location again?
12476 West Bay Ave, there's like a really small parcel there that's vacant, and they're trying to put a hotel in.
Is this the corner of, it would be the southeast corner of Van Gordon and, no, Bayon's further west.
Yeah, you go north just a little bit on Van Gordon where, the Radio Disney building or the Bristol Cone Shooting Center is. You turn left on Bayonne and you go up the hill a little bit to the American Animal Hospital. There's a vacant lot that's been.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting it.
Yeah,
There's a vacant lot there, okay.
it's that.
Okay.
What's going on at the tear down on Union? What are they putting in there, you know?
As of right now, nothing official has been brought to the district, but the way I understand it, the St. Anthony's owners want to put another medical campus out there at some point in time.
Is that an implosion?
No, they had a excavator out there just ripping it down, these vikings.
And what are they doing along, all up and down Alameda? It looks like it's ending into the car wash. Is that a pipe they're putting in there, or is that fiber optics?
It's probably fine.
Because it's dead ending into that lot with the new car wash.
Yeah, so when the writing that was there, the existing connections right there, they abandoned and put new services in for the car wash, so it's like basically a change in use, there was no additional infrastructure that we needed, it's just them replacing.
It sure puts a lot of money into that building.
Going back to the hotel, it's a strange location for a hotel, it's really off the beaten path. Is it some like extended stay or something?
Yeah, I think it's a Holiday Inn Express or something like that, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah,
So somebody needs to stay for a couple months.
something like that. We haven't got that far in the process with them right
I'm
now.
gonna say they're not gonna get drive-by traffic, nobody's gonna know it's there.
Yeah,
Was there any service change to the school, William Heights?
no, we have not heard anything on the disposition of that property since.
It's already sold, and
Yeah.
they've got they're opening next week
That-
as a daycare.
Oakland and Heights, yeah.
They're keeping the building as is.
Yeah, they repainted the fire engine red and put all kinds of new fencing in and new playgrounds and
Yeah, what about all the fields?
it's all tied in locked. I walk the dog in there every day. Can't walk the dog in there anymore. So it's all,
They're gonna continue to be open fields.
they're open fields, but they're fenced.
Can I ask if we can put these projects on a map on the website?
Definitely.
Just a pin.
Just to pinpoint, these are the upcoming new things. So that,
So David, he doesn't have to figure out where it is.
I get them confused too, but I'm sure other people are interested.
Yeah, that's fun. If there's no other questions there, infrastructure replacement projects, the 2024 IRP is done. They did their final overlay on that project there, so the final contract piece was paid out in this month. We also requested a balancing change order, which will show all the lines that were removed from the project due to their just the timing and what they could complete, so that will balance out for the audit. 2025, the sewer has already gone through all of its process. There's a pre-construction meeting on April 22nd, which once we have that pre-construction meeting, we'll have a really dialed in construction schedule for them that we'll put on that construction page. The 2025 water end of it for Dirt 1, which is, we have them broken out into 2 separate projects, that has all been bid and opened, and RG Associates will be on, once we meet the directors matters, we get a presentation of the bid tabulation and their recommendation for awarding the contract. Dirt 2, the second water project is currently being advertised for bid right now. And it's open for, I think, a month, 3 weeks, something like that. And we'll go through that same process once that is, once the bids have been open. We had 8 bids on that first water project, which was really nice.
Is that more than normal?
Yeah, it's probably double what we had last time. We've been using BidNet, which is kind of the number one governmental bidding site. City of Denver, I mean, you name it, any entity within the state of Colorado, CDOT, they all use it. So there's a lot of traffic there. And as part of our bylaws resolution that's will be presented to you, is changing just some wording for the bidding process to allow the district to utilize the best platform for the district to get the most bids. And then just there's a cap rate, so we'll go through that when we get there, but that's where we're at. Leadership. Blessings.
Great.
Any questions?
No, I have to say once again, this is fabulous work, moving on time and quickly, and so I'm glad to hear RG is still working out. This has been fastest closeout I have seen while I've been on board.
They're fantastic. They, a lot of districts are around, I'm not gonna say a lot, but I know at least 3 in the metro area that use them, and they're great, very responsive, very detail oriented. Our construction, our contract documents have been really dialed in, so it's only gonna get easier as we move on.
Say that again, who's this?
RG and Associates.
RG.
There are design engineers. We're still utilizing three firms. We have our development review firm, design firm, and then we have our model firm. So
Seems like months ago, there was some question as to whether we were real happy with them. Does this mean that all that's resolved and we are very happy now?
Oh, yeah, they're without a doubt, they're fantastic.
One general question, say 15 to 20 years from now, how easy will it be for somebody in this office or in this board to find out what was replaced back in 2024, 2025? Are those records readily accessible, easy to read?
Yep, we have all the as-bills on our server if you'd like to utilize them via like a PDF. But also Sam and our GIS, all you gotta do is click on a pipe and all the details will populate. What was installed, what the pipe was prior to it being installed, the material. It's
Nice,
that extra form kills.
sounds great.
Did you see that on the news last night about the 70 zillion the files for the employment of the federal government in a limestone cave? Talk about antiquated, anyway, just,
Oh, sorry, one small additional update. Denver Water's been trying to expand Gross Reservoir for.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, the news. Yeah.
Right now, they did put out a press release that we're gonna put on the website for any residents that have any issues or concerns or wanna just learn about what's going on there, but the federal and the government is put a stop work on that project. Definitely.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, I remember when hearing the story, it's like, we're up to a deadline, we're there, we might give you a couple more days, kind of up in the air. The result is,
Well, they're 10 years in the making right now, and there's a stay for the project for right now, and they're working through those details.
so it is temporarily dead.
Yes,
Okay, that wasn't clear to me.
there's a stop work, 100% stop work right now.
Okay,
I wanna go fishing there.
But there is a tour coming, if anybody's interested in going up there to see any of the, board members want to go see where they're at with the project.
Is
Please let me know.
through Denver Water?
Through Denver Water, yeah.
That open to the public or just,
This right now is just to, the invitation was extended to their master meter and read and bill districts. And their employees and board members, so if anybody's interested in going, let me know, and I'll get us there.
I do believe Jeff Baker, former director, went, found it very interesting.
Have you, another random question, have you heard anything more about the chlorine standards? The change in chlorination, since we found out, fluoridation.
Fluoridation, no, Denver Water, they just issued their consumer confidence report, so that's also, coming in. Into the district, this is all news from April, but I guess I can go ahead and talk about
You
it.
said fluoride? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
It was on the news last night that, Kennedy said he's gonna put a stop to it 100%. They'll have a sign tomorrow that they're gonna do away with fluoride in
Okay,
all waters. Just take.
well, I wondered about it, that's what they found, and Denver was,
Yeah.
didn't seem too keen to change.
Denver does add a little bit, but they're, I think the real level I just read that they have is like 0.7. Maximum containment level is 4.
Okay.
So. It also naturally occurs in water, so that would probably involve some sort of treatment process to remove it.
Does the federal government control that?
EPA does.
Federal government, it does. It does not have.
Started taking some more.
No problem. But if updates come along, I'll definitely share them.
It's interesting.
Alright, well, that's concludes my report. I do have RG on standby. I was just gonna give them probably like a 10-minute heads up to jump online and they can give their presentation.
Okay,
Great.
Who's RG?
So anyway. That's our.
You are on the.
They're gonna present the bid tabulation for their,
Where was I signing?
Dirt one.
On top?
That's on the agenda.
Yeah, it's under director's matters, it's item C.
And that's your signature.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Well, there it is, RG.
You are on the banking, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think.
And that, I believe the bid tabulation, so you'll see all the bids that came in, where they came in, and it came in. I think half of what estimates were, so there's one very reputable and hungry contractor out there that should do that. Will be recommended.
If they all bounce, we'll know why.
okay, well, maybe we can move through the next ones and get to that part. We'll go through the discussion and vote for the district bylaw change. As district manager Stanley referenced, there was ongoing discussion about changing the bylaws to reflect the need to use only BidNet as our main hosting instead of the other ones that are rather redundant and expensive.
That's the only change to the bylaws.
There's an additional change.
Yeah, so right now. It's basically says we have to use these certain platforms, like Dodge Draft Room and. They're very. There's just not a lot of traffic, so it costs us money to post there, and we don't really get any results from it. So what we drafted was, the proposed contract shall be posted for bid online using the platform most beneficial to the district, so. Clean, easy change from calling out specific online bidding sites to utilizing what's best suited for the district.
Did we discuss it at last meeting?
Yes.
Yes, and the meeting before, because we didn't have the exact language at the meeting posted, so I delayed it for another month. So that you would have the exact language to see, so it's been discussed for 2 months.
What's the exact right?
Then the board. There's a copy of the bylaws. The other change is an update to the bid amount. So legislation changed from requiring construction contracts to be bid at $60,000. It's been updated to $120,000.
Those rules and regs that were in the board pack, was that redlined or?
Yeah.
Red lines, and I'm not sure if we're one that made it into the board. Was it a red line? I didn't see it right.
Yeah, I didn't see any red lines. That's
Didn't see it really.
what I was looking for.
But I did read the 120.
That's And just some additional information, starting in 2028, that'll be increased by,
It's paid for us, do
Thank goodness.
and that'll be inflation adjusted starting in 2028.
Yeah, it just eases the burden on districts to, because that's a relatively small job. At the 120,000, we don't have to publicly advertise. You have a contractor you know is good and reputable, you
Jesus.
do a small contract with them without. Two very small changes, but definitely district will benefit from being involved.
And I forgot, and I don't have it in front of me either. Do we still need to notice in like the newspaper,
It's,
if that's still,
it says as well as
Right
the
there,
Jeff Boyd
okay.
transcript.
Yes.
that, it was just removing those doctrine things, yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
just removing the specific sites to
whatever it is,
what best suits the district at the time.
Okay. that's what I
And
was.
5 years from now, maybe a better bid service comes out that we would move to, which is good.
This was listed in the newspapers.
Yes.
Well, what do you mean by this?
Talking about this amendment to the bylaws. What are we talking about?
No, the bidding advertisement goes into the transcript as well as being posted on.
Okay, request for bid.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's the paper. If the red lines didn't come through, I guess that's the problem. I was looking through it. And without reading every word, I didn't see any changes. It still looked like the same regs from 2021.
That is a note at the bottom, in the, if approved, it needs to be updated to 2025. In the, footer.
Yeah, I thought you were just reprinting the existing one, kind of as a backup, seeing everything that's going on. But that thing was redlined?
Yes.
And
Okay,
sometimes you have to download it, it doesn't come through my pre. As a red line, until you download it. But in any case, they don't generally send you things that you don't need to know about, so if you have a question on something, feel free.
I do have a question. It's a little bit off, but something I read in that code on here, and I was going, what, I didn't quite understand it. Thought I'd ask Dylan to maybe explain it. It's on page 54, second paragraph. The board retains the right in its sole discretion to reject any proposal. Then it goes on. Determine the proposal and the sum contract will serve the best interests of the district. So what is this paragraph basically indicating?
So
We are,
the primary purpose of that paragraph is that you are not obligated to award a bid, you're not obligated to award a project to anyone. So if you get 5 bids and one is clearly the cheapest, there are some circumstances under which that bidder gets the project, but that's not the case for you as an entity or your self-imposed obligations. So if you don't get a bid that you like, you don't have to give the project to anybody. And then. So
Or
that's,
you can give it to anybody. You always have to take the cheapest bid.
typically it's the lowest responsible. So if you get somebody that says, I'll do it for $20 and a case of beer, that's the lowest bid, but they're obviously not responsible. So
Right.
you are not obligated to award it to them either. So you have to give it, you don't have to give it. Typically, the request for proposals state lowest responsible bidder and also not obligated to award it to any bidder.
yeah, when I was on the fire district, it was made quite clear, you can choose whatever bid you want. It doesn't have to be the lowest. Obviously, that was something, you're thinking about, but oftentimes we take another bid because we like that company better than the low bid.
That was all.
And there's different mechanisms. So you can do requests for, you can go it on qualifications, independent of price, or price is a consideration, or you can do it on lowest responsible, where price is the primary consideration and ability to perform the job is a secondary consideration. So it just depends on the type of project,
And what's our requirement?
depends on the type of project. For construction projects, you're gonna go with the lowest responsible bidder,
Lowest responsible.
yes.
And RG, they ask questions of the contractors. They,
If you award it.
yeah, and they can
So
sit
we're,
with
so we got
other
potentially
districts.
this deal with this, pipe in this, that's going across this gully thing. They were under, going to court.
The ravine issue,
Yeah, and if you come back, we're gonna have to fix that, we will submit that to bid. And
that'll be a construction project,
that's a
which
huge project.
will almost certainly be over $120,000, which will go out to bid. At some point, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, so at that point, we will get multiple bids and we don't have to pick the lowest bid, we don't feel that that's the best bid.
Right. And you don't have to award it. If you get one bid and it's not, you don't have to award it to that bidder.
I think I got a fuzzier.
Is there a motion to amend the bylaws as presented?
So,
Director Wendell moves second,
second,
second by Director Martinez. Thank you very much. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye, unanimous approval. Thank you all. And thank you for making those changes.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep, thanks, Sam. And Dylan for getting it ready. Okay. Next is a package on changes for the staff. That includes the resolution with some, and actually, do I need the act? Which I don't have, changes in policy and incorporates all of the work Josh has been doing as a district manager to reorganize staff as he would like and to straighten out job descriptions and match things up as we have been talking about since before I got on the board, and he made it happen. So it has been a long time coming. I appreciate all the hard work. And he has, it's been a lot of hard work because he's answered all of my questions. It's probably been $40,000, I'm sure, like if he was billing me for it. So thank you very much. But it has been a long time coming and he did do it all. So did everybody have a chance to go through the resolution, have questions on the policy changes, on the reorg?
Haven't seen it.
Was this emailed to us?
Not part of the, yes.
It's in
you got it in the
the,
packet.
Pages, starts on page 55.
Okay, I did not see any of that. Is this the one right here? Josh?
should have been for last Friday.
This is the agenda.
Yeah, Friday about noon. It's also in the.
It came from,
OneDrive. You have access to your OneDrive? Yes,
Sure.
this first one right there. And then it'll just be starting on page 55.
Yeah, this is the first I've seen of it, so
That's gonna be,
on 55.
yeah. Should be a little hyperlink there, but yeah, that director's matters right there, that little blue page 55. Yeah, just scroll through a couple pages, it'll be right behind it. I don't know, so.
And I neglected to say there was a separate attachment for some of the Excel sheet stuff. And that was Just a separate attachment, but in the same email. But Director Wendell was also very instrumental in bringing all of this together, so thank you very much. He actually did put in a lot of work coming in and doing these extra meetings. So that was, again, open to everybody, and he stepped up, and I appreciate that. Because it did take some extra work and review and just bouncing things around. So thank you, Director Wendell, for going the extra mile.
I did have one question, and I need to say also, Josh, well done. So I'm not trying to pick it apart, but on, item number 9, merit-based increases. And I thought of this the other day when I was looking it over, basing it on my own career way back in the past. Merit-based increase, shall be no more than 3% of the salary and remain within the pay band, which makes perfect sense. Except from the industry I came from, if that was the case, they wouldn't raise your pay, but they would give you money above that. Am I describing that properly?
Yes. Yeah.
So am I off track here or what? In other words, if somebody's at the top of their pay band and they're a super performer, they're going to get nothing.
You're right. If it tops out, that's the way it's written, that they hit a wall and top out.
And I'm fine to go with this. I just wanted to clarify it. And just bring up my personal history a little bit in that where I came from, if you're at the top of the pay band, if you were in the middle, for example, you'd go up 3% if you're a high performer. If you're at the top, your pay would not increase, but you get a one-time cash payout. I don't know if that'd be a consideration or.
Well, the way it's structured right now is everybody is right at that about 50% mark, so there's room for growth across the board, and as this comes up. Every so often, what is it, I think I said every 2 years in there, that can be looked over again.
Yeah,
and the pay band stuff will also increase, so
Yes.
the idea is nobody.
Nice.
Oh, so people typically would be at the top of the pay band.
Only because that's
Okay,
not.
that answers it, yeah.
Well, the pay band would be adjusted based on the new salary, right? It wouldn't be because we increased 3% every year that the pay band automatically
Right.
increases every year, 3%. But we could put a note in there about that. I had some reservations about. I mean, that's why there is a mechanism to top out.
But conceivably, the pay bands could freeze if there was no inflation.
Yeah.
And so
Wouldn't that
somebody
be
could,
interesting?
it'd be wonderful. I mean, I'm not,
Well,
as
in
far as
that,
inflation goes.
Well, we're always adjusting the pay bands due to inflation, right?
Well, that's the idea.
That is the idea, yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's always, pay bands are not stagnant, they're always
Correct.
going
Yeah,
up.
and it's flexible enough, the way it's proposed is. Where everybody's placed right now, and. It would take several years for somebody to top out without the payments also increasing, so.
If that's the case, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But we did have a few years of very low inflation, where it's conceivable, somebody getting 3% for a couple of years would top out. Then what would you do with that additional year if they were a high performer? But if you're confident that this will work, I'm fine with it.
okay,
Yeah.
I am fine with amending for other language too, and it can also be amended later.
Yeah. Yeah, the pay band will be examined, approximately every 2 years, so that triggers those potentially to move up. As well as
Sure.
where the employee moves within the band, so.
No, I'm comfortable with that. You put a ton of work into this, and I was almost embarrassed to bring this up, but just based it on my experience, so, yeah, okay.
Well,
I know
that's,
we had discussion around this whole thing for a while back. But these pay bands, and they're inflationary driven in terms of increases on the band level. What if, given all that's going on recently with the markets and everything, that we ended up in a recession and there may not be an inflationary, and we start to see a downturn?
I've never heard of pay bands being reduced.
No,
I guess it's possible.
I've never heard one either, but
Yeah.
it could. As you just said, we have to cap out.
Yeah, it could become stagnant, but I guess that would be a board decision, and that'd be action I would bring
Yeah, I would never bring it
keep-
down.
to keep, keep employees on board. The job market is tough right now. So in the way that they're positioned, it would take several years for anybody to get to a spot where they're hitting the top of their pay grade, so.
You have nobody in that position right now.
We have a couple people that are not in line with the old structure as for what their certification levels are, which they need adjusting. So. But it's thankfully it was not way out of whack when we started this process.
Hmm.
Any further questions? There, a motion to approve the resolution to adopt the reorg positions and policy.
I move that be adopted.
Thank you, Director Wendell. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Director Martinez. Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
I'm saying no.
Okay, everybody but Director Little was in favor, Director Little opposes. Motion passes. Thank you for all of your work.
Thank you for your, all of you were very, beneficial, very helpful in the process. I do appreciate it.
And I'm passing on thanks to the staff for their patience in this process.
Just 6 or 7 years.
It's been a while. I hope it lasts for 6 or 7 years. And the other thing was some of those, as you read in the resolution headings, the whereases, I hope this will shorten up our budget discussions because we have procedures in place. So we shouldn't have to endlessly debate.
Yeah, I think it was streamlined that.
That would be great.
So,
Okay, so we are on to RG,
Yep.
if it's available.
Yeah, he's hopping on here. You want to pull up the, then I give him a 10-minute.
Yeah, and then we
Well, then,
ended abruptly.
yeah,
Well, take the time, we'll do 10 minutes, we can adjourn, and come back at.
no, I think he'll be ready.
Okay,
And I will also throw out there, we did have a contractor who bid on one of RG's packages, not for Green Mountain, but independent of our bids that went out, but they emailed to just compliment how straightforward their package was for them to read. There's a lot that goes in for a contractor to digest as far as what line item A, B, C, and D is on what they're expecting to bid on. And they're very complimentary on how easy it was for them to determine what was being asked by the engineering firm, so. It's good to hear. Sure. Good feather in the cap for those guys.
Excellent.
that is a big deal, and just having so many bids too speaks well of the process, and then we've got that nailed down. There were several projects when I first came on board that we had one person bidding, and we were kind of begging them to, okay, so this is.
It's great, because the bids come back very accurate, there's no questions that are asked in the field, change orders are very minimal, so it's.
Right.
Well, other than you putting out a good bid document, is there changes in the environment as to why we're getting so many responses? World
You know, probably some of it could be word of mouth, just between districts communicating and contractors learning of, these bids coming from districts. Knowing where to go and look for them. So like there's probably a lot less going to the golden transcript or whatever established that they're looking at looking for the bidding documents. It's moving to an online world more than anything, so I think that's the biggest piece for contractors finding the work. But a lot of them will see a package come in and not even really want to bid on it because it's not communicated in a way that they can accurately bid it. They don't want to shortchange themselves or, you know, be too honest.
Well, I remember in an old world, it's like if everybody's so busy, why bother? And versus we are so hungry right now, we'll bid on anything that comes along. And so that's kind of a global environment. I'm just wondering if there is a global environment right now that is affecting us.
You know, I feel like there's been an influx of contractors from out of state coming into the Colorado area for how fast Denver is growing, so I think there's just more out there than traditionally. Excuse me, how it's been in the past, there's a lot more contractors available. Oh. Yes.
Hey Jim, are you able to hear us? I'm not able to hear you.
I'll see you.
He's figuring out his audio issues are usually the number one problem in here.
Yeah. Oh, it's muted.
Pretty picture.
Yeah, that's where he's hanging out right now.
Sometimes I read.
Is it Crater Lake?
Sometimes I don't.
Crater Lake? No, it's not Crater Lake.
Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm having some technical difficulties, but as long as you can hear me, that's great.
Hey Jim,
How's it going?
thank you for taking the time to join us. Got the directors here and we'll hand it over to you.
Well, thank you very much. My name's Jim Landry. I'm with RG and Associates. I went ahead and sent Josh my recommendation of award letter. I don't know if you guys had a chance to take a look at it. It
Yeah.
was an excellent turnout. We had a lot of bidders, and what we do typically is we get the bids, we do a bid tabulation. So what we do is we take all of the unit prices and the bid items and we put it in a bid tabulation, and that's attached to the award recommendation letter. And then we also call references for the lowest apparent qualified bidder, and that was Diaz. All of those came back as a positive responses, so that these are other jurisdictions that have used them for similar work. So it's relevant project experience. So essentially what the letter says is Diaz was the lowest qualified bidder. We checked their references. We've checked the submittal that they give in terms of the bid schedule, the unit prices, the unit quantities. And we found that it was a complete bid package, and therefore we're going to recommend that the award be to Diaz. And I'm free for any questions you may have.
Were they the least expensive?
Yes, they were the least expensive. Their bid was $768,162. I can tell you a little bit about the bidders. The top three bidders, Diaz, Diamond, and Levi, are in the industry regarded as the best contractors for small diameter water main replacements. They've done a good job in multiple jurisdictions over the past 10, 15 years. So those contractors they're kind of like the top tier contractors. So it's great to see them bidding. And their unit prices, when you boil the project down to cost per lineal feet, Diaz came in at 216 a lineal feet, which that's a very good price. So a great price from a great contractor is always good.
Have you worked with them in the past?
Yes, I've worked with them in Platte Canyon Water and Sanitation District a few years ago, and then the town of Mountain View about 4 years ago.
The outcomes were all positive?
Yes, yeah, they did good. They started strong. They stayed on budget and on time.
And any callbacks or issues that you know?
No, none that I was aware of on the projects that I've worked on. And that's a great question. And that's something that we ask on the contractor reference form. Is we ask if there were any change orders or if that jurisdiction had issues, and they all came back as no change orders, which that's good to hear.
Jim, why would there be such a variance between all these bidders? It's huge. Would
You know
have
what? I was hoping you'd ask that question. So,
Well, you called me today and told me that. So
well, you know
I'm
what?
not-
It's a team effort, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is
No,
what
but
I
it
can
is,
tell
it's
you.
glaring. I'm just surprised.
So there's a couple of reasons. So number one, Diaz, Diamond, and Levi, they've been doing this for decades. They've been doing it. They've got the right team. They've got the right equipment. You got to have smaller equipment to get through through these projects quickly. They know the jurisdiction. They've worked in these jurisdictions. They've worked in Lakewood. They've worked in Jefferson County. So they know what to expect. And that's why they can give the lower prices. Now, the people that are higher prices, my expert opinion is that they're probably doing a couple of things. They're probably just throwing a bid out there and hoping they're the only ones that bid and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
And some of them they're just too big for these projects, and that's reflected glaringly in the mobilization costs. I mean, we're looking at mobilization from some of these guys in the 200,000 to 500,000. That's ridiculous. Their mobilization is almost more than it costs to do the project. So they're just kind
What
of
does mobilization mean?
mobilization and so there's a bid item for mobilization, demobilization, and site restoration. And essentially, that's the cost that it takes for the contractor to get all of their equipment on site and get going. And then also getting all their equipment offsite, cleaning up and just kind of buttoning up the job. And typically it's around 10%. So for a job like this, I'm expecting, 50, 60, 70,000, not 555,000. So yeah, just some larger firms that either don't know the jurisdiction, don't really know how to do the work, or they're just trying to be the only bidder.
Okay, thank you.
From a Green Mountain perspective, have we ever worked with them?
I do not recall working with Diaz. There are a couple on this list that we have done several jobs in Green Mountain, but, as far as the contractor that is being recommended for the project, we have not. At least in my 23 years here.
Well, it seems to me like you've done your due diligence on this. And you
Yeah,
have a relationship or a history at least with some knowledge.
yeah, you bet. And we try to do as much due diligence as possible, and that's represented in the recommendation of award letter and the attachment, so that board members can see all the data. It's all black and white, and you can see what other jurisdictions, engineers, or operators state about that contractor. So yeah, I've been doing this. I've been working with water and sewer districts since the early 2000s. So you come across the same contractors over and over, and some of them are great.
So is there a motion to award this bid
I motion
to Diaz?
Oh, yeah.
I motion to award this bid.
Thank you, Director Martinez. Second?
I'll second it.
Second by Director Wendell. Any other discussion? We will be accepting Diaz construction bid at, I lost the number, 768,162 for the 2025 infrastructure. Good, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. And yeah, if you guys can just sign the notice of award, what I do with that is after the board signs it, I will send that to the contractor tomorrow morning, and that means the clock is ticking. They've got 2 weeks to gather their bonds up, and then we'll have a pre-construction meeting.
Perfect. Thanks for all your work.
Thanks. Do you need anything else from me?
Think of anything.
Don't think so.
Well,
Thanks
thanks
for
for
doing
having me, and you guys have a great night.
You too, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. See ya.
That was a long week. But good to be done.
And like, yeah, there's a second.
Hey. So you're John Hancock. Good job, Hancock.
So we're on to legal matters. You know, I keep forgetting, they have the thing, but are we putting seals on any of this? We never do. Digital being in the bylaw, it says in state statute, nobody does it, but not a big deal, okay.
Next bylaw revision.
I think you have to by state statute stuff, right? Did they take it out of state statute?
Not aware of a formal requirement to use it, so it may be out. Or I could just not be aware.
Okay.
Will be less than $1,000 to find out.
Right. Are you ready for a legal update?
Yes, so I let Bill O'Connell know, to join in 10 minutes ago, so you should be here, listening. Perfect. I'll just go and give a quick general legal, and then we can get into more particular matters.
Okay.
This will come up later, but we did receive a redlined, counter proposal agreement from City of Lakewood on the ravine issue. I believe that went out, in the board packet as a red line. We have a executive session on that, so we can discuss that further in the executive session. We also have an executive session on, additional litigation. Before I get into that, I'll go over the general legal matters, which are also litigation matters. The Timmons litigation is continuing. My partner John deposed Ms. Timmons a few days ago. We haven't gotten the transcript yet, but he said that he felt that it went well, beneficial to the case. At the end of the month, Director Morgan is going to be deposed by Ms. Timmons' attorneys. My partner John will be defending that deposition and sitting in with Director Morgan. So that case is in the middle. It's in the discovery phase. Also, the Big Sky litigation went to trial at the end of last year. And the district court judge issued an order early February saying that he expected to have his final order issued within 60 days, which would be April 10th. So we do not have it yet. It's possible it'll come out this week. I'm expecting that it'll probably not come out this week, but that it'll be delayed and the judge will issue another status report saying, I expect to have it within such and such time. It was a major trial. It's going to be a long order. When it comes out, I'll circulate it and I'll review it and provide you my analysis. Also, because the judge did say that he was expecting to have the order this week, I asked around in anticipation that the case is going to be appealed by someone, no matter what the outcome, for recommendations for appellate lawyers. So I've gotten some recommendations. I'll be looking into them when it's appropriate. I'll make recommendations to you if you choose to hire appellate counsel for that case.
But that would be another vote of the board if we would lose the case and be choosing to appeal it ourselves. Otherwise, we would need to make another decision to defend the appeal rather than settle it. That's what you're saying. Either way, we would have a decision to make. It just didn't.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's not just going wrong without us.
Right. It will not. Someone will need to make a decision about appealing it.
Okay.
I am confident that someone will.
Yes, okay.
Who depends on how the case comes out. Yes. Maybe everyone will.
Yeah.
Which happens. So going back to the federal center, the Bend litigation, the developer has sued you being the district, and you all as the board. You are insured for this type of case. So the pool has assigned you an attorney, again, you being the board and the district, to represent you in that litigation. His name is Bill O'Connell. He's actually represented the district before, or currently represents the district in the federal litigation brought by Ms. Timmons. So Director Morgan has met him before. I've met him before. He's basically familiar with the district from that litigation. And he's going to participate in the executive session to talk to you about the substance of the litigation. But I'm telling you about the existence of it in an open session. And I previously circulated the complaint, so you have had that if you wanted to review that. Again, Bill will go into the details if you'd like.
Yes.
So you have no legal into this litigation. It's now with this other lawyer.
I think there's two questions there. Do I have any participation, and I do have any insights? I do have some participation. They served you through me, so I waived an accepted service. So I am a participant in the litigation as an attorney, but I'm not representing you. I won't be litigating the case. My insights, I do have some comments on it. I will share those with Bill and in our executive session conversation, but I don't have any to share in open session.
Can we, if we have any legal questions, can we go to you, or do we have to go to Bill?
In the executive session, it will be outside the following conversation, but if you wanna if you wanna ask general questions
General question.
of the litigation by email or by conversation later, I'm happy to take them to Bill. I would suggest that you email both of us, if you email us. Cause there may be some questions that are sort of litigation adjacent, but are not actually in his wheelhouse, and they might be in mine.
I would like to make a motion. And this is based on what I've heard, what I've read, everything, but I'd like to make a motion that we table all discussion on any legal advice on any of this until after the new election. We could have all new board members at next month. And then it's gonna change totally, or could change totally. So I don't think it's appropriate that we're discussing something that may not be in office next month to further our discussions. So I would like to table this until our next meeting, which is after the election, and then we can move forward with any discussion or any executive session that we might have.
Oh, that's a good point. How does that all work?
It's just we table what we're discussing until next meeting.
Yeah, but we're.
You'll be on the suit, but you can't discuss, I mean, you can't do anything about it because you're off the board if you don't get elected.
So I would,
We can talk about it.
well, that's.
I mean, we can talk
I think
about it,
it's
but I don't think
important
we
that
need
you
to
be
make any
informed.
informed, but I don't think we need to make any votes or any judgments until after the next election.
And I am not anticipating, I could be wrong because
Yeah.
I don't know everything. I'm not anticipating that you'll be asked to make any decisions today, and certainly you will not be asked to make any decisions.
Okay, that's
in
fine, as long as we,
executive session.
I'm just saying, I want to table any voting till after the next.
This is all informative to me. It's going.
Yeah, it's for, I want to hear about it, but I don't want to make any decisions.
And that's what the purpose of the executive session is.
Yeah, I want to
to
mention
introduce-
something in the executive session about the suit. So I'll wait until the executive session to make that comment.
We have a motion on the floor.
I have a motion on the
Is
floor.
there a second?
What you said, I agree with, but I'm not sure, do we need a motion? Because I think you just
Yes.
said
We do need a motion.
to go into executive session or
No.
to
To
table.
table until after the next election. We can go into executive session and talk.
Oh. Okay, well, I'll second that.
Okay, second by Director Wickman. My discussion points are, once again, thank you, Director Wickman, for seconding a motion that is not on the agenda whatsoever, but delays anything after you just gave me a hard time about a motion that was on the agenda.
Sorry.
I will not be voting in favor of that. I don't have any idea what decisions may be coming up. So I don't know what will be needed, so if at that point that we are asked to make a decision that I feel may be inappropriate, then I may delay it then, but I don't feel like it's right now is an appropriate time for that. Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't think we're at that point. We're not gonna be making any decisions.
You may be asked in a little bit.
Yeah, well, but I won't go down any decisions. I don't know. I have absolutely no inclination as to what, the legal issues are. So that's hopefully gather information about it. I went over the thing and highlighted stuff and got questions and there's some information. The director got, this was very informative. Thank you. Did an excellent job on the neighborhood thing on the reply and we got some feedback from a couple of people and it all plays into this whole deal. So that's gotta gather all that information, put it together. There's no movement in terms of voting for anything, as I can see. So I agree with you.
Okay, vote on it.
Okay. All in favor of motion to table? Director Wickman and Director Little are in favor and all opposed are as Director Wendell, Martinez and Morgan. Motion fails.
It's gonna go your way anyway. It's gonna go your way.
Or just remember that.
Is there, I have questions. Is there anything else you can tell us that you would like to say? I don't see, I thought I heard him online, but I don't see anything. Oh, yes. Okay. Can we get a synopsis then? And I'd like to hear anything else we can tell the public
Yeah, I can give you
about this
a
case.
synopsis of the case appropriate for open session. So the developer has sued on 3 claims. The first is a request for judicial review of the board's decision not to provide service via the mechanism of tabling any further discussion. So there is a process for requesting that a judge review a decision of a local government body. That the outcomes of that review are typically either the judge approves the decision or rejects the decision, and it comes back to the local government body to make a different decision.
That's just the tabling of it, or part of it.
Yes, and to the extent the tabling works as a denial. That's their theory. They're presenting the theory that your tabling is a denial of service.
Okay, well, I didn't take the tabling as a denial.
Yes.
And
Executive.
that's a fair point. But for purposes of analyzing the case, I'm going to tell you what they're saying as though it's true.
Yeah, I understand what they're saying, but what from my perspective, as I saw that tabling, motion, decision was not a point of denial.
Okay.
We never said we're tabling it or denying it. We never said denial, that was not part of it.
And the second claim is the same request, judicial review of the outright denial. So they're also alleging that the board has outright denied service,
Have we,
not via the table.
have we ever written anything to them that said denial?
Well, I'm just telling you what the claims are.
Okay, so, all right, those are the questions that I was
Really?
talking about earlier that, I need to put together, because what it says here and what they're claiming and what really took place. I don't see any meetings.
Sure. And the third claim is what's called a section 1983 claim, which is a federal law that allows someone who has rights to have a denial of those rights remedied. When the denial of those rights is done by state or local government. So the claim there is the Green Mountain Board has violated their rights. Whatever those rights are. And they're entitled to a remedy. And that's the money claim. So the first 2 are just for a judicial order. The third claim is, and we want money.
So it really didn't, that from that point, this is my mind thinking, it really is a timing issue. And from my point of view,
Right.
that, I wasn't ready to make a call on that. Still not sure which way to go with it, but now they're forcing the issue on that. So. There's no denial, there's no denial given to them.
So the status of the case is the lawsuit has been filed, it has been served, and it is now the district's time to respond to the lawsuit, however it chooses to do in the advice of its attorney. So unless there are additional general questions, I think that's the point at which it's appropriate to go into
I think
executive
it's
session.
an executive session, yeah.
I have additional questions.
Okay.
Because it keeps coming up in public, so I would like to ask. And I know this gets tricky, but we have been in this situation before. Via Big Sky. In which we had. This is the rough comparison that's going on, okay, so I keep getting asked, well, you stood up and you denied Big Sky, same thing, it should be the same kind of thing, you just told them you're not gonna serve them, and you're doing the same thing here, and Why isn't it the same? Why don't you have the same rights? And can't you just use all the same arguments and same thing? Same.
Well, they are somewhat analogous cases. There is. The facts are similar. The claims are different here. There is no, for example, there's no breach of contract claim here, although there is in the Big Sky case. And Big Sky is primarily a breach of contract case. And the major factual distinction is none of the Big Sky property was included in Green Mountain. All of the federal center property is included in Green Mountain. So the obligations to serve are different. Although the decision-making process was similar.
Okay.
So there are continuities and discontinuities.
May I answer that question? Or say something to that question? These are totally different scenarios. Green Mountain has never in its existence ever dealt with contaminated property before, ever.
Okay.
That's the key issue right there.
Okay,
We're not denying service to this, we're denying the contamination issue.
okay,
And that's the two major differences between these two cases.
Okay, well, let me segue then.
Yeah.
That
As
is
a potential
two,
determining factor.
Yeah,
that is two other points that I would love to get some kind of
clarification. I
clarification
agree.
on, because is it true that because Green Mountain has not had it, that there are not established procedures for environmental remediated sites anywhere in the US, anywhere in Colorado, for example, that would have led to something like the clean corridors procedures? So is it
Yeah.
is it relevant that Green Mountain has not done this before?
Very well.
Probably there is no relevance to the fact that Green Mountain has not done it before.
I would disagree with that, but
Is there any relevance to the Love Canal, to Green Mountain?
No.
Is there any relevance to Rocky Flats, to Green Mountain?
No.
And something else you said was constantly being brought up. That would be good.
well, it's just the thought that, like I said, Green Mountain has never dealt with this. It doesn't have anything to do with any of the other places in the world. It's Green Mountain itself.
Well,
I understand.
We have never dealt with any other water that I know of, Josh, you know, Ben?
Dylan, when you say no.
I don't know any contaminated property. I don't think we've
You say
dealt with
no,
any properties that have totally been contaminated in this manner.
we learn from history. And if you don't take what you find out, you learn from history, then you're doomed to make the same mistakes again in the future. So therefore, yes, Rocky Flats is relevant to Green Mountain because we got to take that in consideration and learn from it. Same with Love Canal. Any of these cases that have potential outcomes that we could be facing need to be taken into consideration. Therefore, they are relevant. I differ on what you said with that.
So that is two different points of view. Thank you very much. We'll move on so that we don't get too far in the weeds on that.
Sure.
We'll have to go in, but these matters, not only have they almost all come up in public session before, but they continue to be brought up and debated, even amongst ourselves, online in public. It's gonna be hard to not do that. I don't know how much there is to avoid at this point, since we have said so much of it already out in public session. I don't know if there's any great secrecy. The legal advice will be, we'll have to remember to keep confidential.
Along the lines of the public thing, I was absolutely, this is my personal opinion, disappointed in our efforts to get the public aware of this. We had a young lady show up tonight expressed her opinion. She got that because of the neighborhood thing, I believe. I think that's where she came from.
Karen has been researching for quite a while.
That's what she got that. She was on, I read, there's a string of track of things that Dave wrote, and there was response within the neighborhood for this, and people were starting to say, wait a minute, I was not aware of this. Even had one gentleman who was a lawyer, I think he was a lawyer, worked on the Rocky Flats problem. And he wrote a beautiful write-up on it about what happened there, and he lives here in Lakewood. And expressed his dire concerns that we really need to be careful moving forward on that property. And he related it back to Rocky Flats. So that's part of what I'm saying, you gotta learn from history, and that's where he was coming from, and he's directly related to Rocky Flats and lives in Lakewood. So, given that, but we did that one day, I was disappointed we didn't have, but the dog and pony show from the developers. And none of our constituents showed up, and I don't think we did our best effort to really get people out there involved with it, but I did see some involvement. Thanks to Mr. Our director here to my right. Who has he got on the neighborhood app and sent some stuff out, and I think you were on there too.
This is former director Dave Garner who started that.
Yeah, so it blew up. You know, and I didn't do anything because I wanted to get more information and start, because I firmly believe that our constituents don't understand the problem.
I think that's undoubtedly true.
I agree.
I really do. And I think if everybody was aware within our district, what's going on here and you know, all the ins and outs of this thing, we would have a huge uprising against that property. That's my personal opinion. That's what I believe. I believe it's just a matter of educating our people. They don't know.
Okay,
Let's go into executive session.
So I think we can go into executive session.
okay, one more question then, because that's really, I think, the crux of the difference that I see between this and Big Sky. Is that in a Big Sky case. Very early on, not very early, it was what, 8 months, they said, these are the reasons for denying service, and they took a stance on for breaking the contract, on various aspects, but they had a resolution to say, this is what we're doing, this is what we're standing behind. For, you know, as opposed to still looking for reasons, I mean, are we getting to the point of defending reasons in this claim?
That probably really gets into defenses that we should talk about in the executive session.
I don't wanna know about, I don't wanna know about. Do we have defenses? But are there claims to say
Yes.
that we have laid out and voted on these denial services?
It is a much less clear denial of service in this instance than it was in the Big Sky.
That's it for me, thank you. Okay. If there's nothing else. Can we do a motion?
I
For
have a
executive
motion to go into executive session.
Motion made by Director Martinez, second by Director Little for executive session, sorry, go ahead. All in favor, executive session, unanimous approval, thank you.
As the district's attorney, is my opinion that the discussion of the matter announced in the motion to go into executive session constitutes a privileged attorney-client communication. I am therefore requesting that no further record be kept until the executive session has been concluded. The time is now 8:52, and please turn off the recording. Time is now 10:10, and we have resumed the recording because the attorney-client communication is finished. The executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were the board of directors, district manager, general counsel, and litigation counsel, Bill O'Connell. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matter is not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concern for the record. Seeing none, the next agenda item is executive session for the ravine structures.
I will move to go into executive session for legal advice regarding the ravine structures. Do I have a second?
Second.
Director Martinez, thank you. All in favor? That's unanimous. Motion passes.
As the district's attorney, it is my opinion that the discussion of the matter announced in the motion to go into executive session constitutes a privileged attorney-client communication. I am therefore requesting that the recording be terminated at this time. The time is now 10:42 and we have resumed the recording because the attorney-client communication is finished. The executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were the board of directors, district manager, and general counsel. As a note, at the end of the executive session, while resuming the recording, there was a question about adding an item to the next agenda regarding pending legislation. I would ask that that request for the addition to the agenda be made in the open session.
Okay, so I'm asking for an agenda item. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Ask for an agenda item in executive session next month at the next meeting to discuss legal advice pertaining to HB 25-1211, which will have passed or failed by that point. Okay. All right. Legal, is there anything else for legal questions? There,
Well, I've got a couple of motions related to the legal issue.
Okay.
One motion, I'd like to table your initial tabling permanently or whatever, the Fed Center. I'd like to make that open again, an open issue
okay,
for going forward for the discussion. We could make a motion for that.
Well,
Okay.
just clear. Are we in open
No,
session?
I'm gonna have it tabled.
We are in open session.
Open session.
so we can't add it to next meeting, next
Yeah,
month's agenda.
it can be added to agendas from now on.
Well, I think it can be regardless.
No, but not
Well,
parliamentary procedure.
yeah, well, I think we interpreted it differently. I'm like you, I thought when it was tabled.
And that's so,
it's
that's
okay.
what
It's
but now, but I'm making the motion to do it now,
To put
to
it,
make it
on-
open.
make it,
Well, yeah, I think it's always open. And
Yeah, well,
I don't think it was ever tabled.
Yeah, I mean,
Untable it. Permanently, whatever. Yeah, just.
but that doesn't necessarily mean we make a decision at the next meeting.
No, it does not.
But it's just
It's
still in.
Ongoing.
just ongoing, just puts it back in for legal and
Yeah.
semantic.
Okay, I thought it was always there.
Yeah, so
But we're
legal and
clarifying.
semantic purposes,
Okay, we're just clarifying. All right,
so that's my motion.
fine.
okay, Director Martinez motions. Is there a second? Director Whitman seconds. My question is, you're leaving it open for discussion. I would ask that you would, if you have something to discuss, as general practice, you put something specific on the agenda. So,
Well, I think we should probably put it on the agenda for next meeting to bring up everybody's concerns and discuss a potential of coming to a vote as to where we want to do with giving the property owners an answer in terms of denial or approval,
okay,
or where we are at least, you know.
So would this be an opportunity for us to agree to provide them with service next meeting?
We discuss it.
But could we
Yeah.
vote, to give them service at the next meeting?
If that's what's determined in the next meeting, sure. If that's the meeting of the minds, yeah.
okay,
Right now, it's tabled with, like they were saying, I thought, it was
In my mind, we could have voted on it.
You could vote on any time.
At the next meeting, we could approve it.
Yeah.
Approve it. I'm just wondering, are you saying at the next meeting, we have to do something versus I still have some questions I want to resolve? It's like, what, how are you tying my hands at the next meeting?
I'm not,
No,
I don't wanna tie anybody's hands, I just wanna open it up, I wanna take that little thread that got pulled that night and pull it out and untie it. So that, so it's now back on, so I don't have to listen to somebody, put it in a legal document that, we were denying it because of a semantic that I took as being weird. It wasn't
Are
denied.
you gonna continue slow walking it, or are we gonna make an effort to resolve this?
We've always been making it never run. I'm not slow walking. I'll take my time in terms of how I feel warm and good about making the right decision, but I'm not slow walking anything. I'm not gonna be, like I said in the past, I'm not gonna be forced into making a decision until I feel good about it. And if that requires time, it requires time. And
But didn't you say before that you never wanted to see anything built there ever?
I would not want to see, I don't want to see anything built there. I don't think that property
Ever?
is conducive to being having anything built. But if there's somebody bought it, and I also said this too, it's not my deal to
Is
justify that guy's property because he bought problem property.
Is this a really good idea to be talking about?
No,
I agree.
If we're gonna have a whole meeting about this, this is exactly the policy
But, you know,
decisions that we need to be
but,
making.
I just want to untie that string right now. I'm not gonna go into it.
We made a motion that we will clarify that the tabling has been terminated and the subject matter can be brought up at any time.
Right.
Okay, I second that motion.
I agree.
Okay,
No, I'm afraid I still need some more clarification because I don't understand. Are we just bringing it up to say that we will discuss, which is what I'm kind of hearing, but we are not where we left it. I think I had a summary of decisions that we needed to make in that February meeting. For example, we needed to decide, do we want single point of service? Or do we want to do the traditional service model still included in the district?
Those
That's
are-
the first.
Those are the
Decision.
things I want to discuss at the next
Okay.
session.
but she's asking, do you want to make a decision on those things?
So if,
Then we will discuss at that time. The timeline for making decisions on that. That timeline can include that night, that timeline can include whatever the board decides it's going to be. I'm not gonna make that decision right now. Because I'm not in a position, tired, and I wanna go home. And
Right.
I just wanna untie that string
I
and I
understand,
wanna open it up and you're trying to force something that I'm not gonna say at this point, other than to say. I didn't like the fact that you tabled it forever, and that was wrong. If I ever realized that, I would have said, no, we're not tabling it, because that was not the intent, that was not my intent. My intent was to just, table for that night and go move forward with it and do more investigative work. That was what I was trying to do, and I wasn't denying them anything. Okay,
I
and
understand.
regardless of my personal feelings about the property not being, I don't want anything built on it, that's my personal opinion, but I'm not denying them anything. Okay, at this point. I just want to move forward with whatever decisions we need to make for that property.
I would love to move forward with that. I don't see that this is a move in that direction.
It's better than
So-
sitting where we've been sitting,
Well,
and
that's
particularly from the standpoint of what this is saying after talking with the lawyer. And what they're basing the 106 on, yeah. We need to untie that string like I put it. And so we got a motion, we got a second,
Any
Yeah,
other
vote on it.
discussion? Do we have any other discussion first?
Can we be assured that we're not gonna keep going in circles to intentionally slow this down?
Exactly.
Like we did, that's why it was tabled before, we just kept repeating ourselves.
no, okay, that's perception with two of the board members. That's not the perception with the other three board members.
Okay.
And that's why there was, the vote has never been able to go forward, because two
That's-
board members think we're slow, we're not.
Absolutely.
If three are in the majority on a 5-member board, can't pin it on me.
Well,
Can't pin it on him either.
you can't pin it on me, but you're claiming you're trying to pin it on me for slow, I'm not slow walking, and I don't like the term. I just don't want, I don't want to be.
But you don't want anything built there.
I personally would like to see.
We're going in circles
Yeah.
again, and I think we've got enough.
From a personal perspective, but from a board's decision, that's a different deal.
So the board position is now to untable the motion, but still not make any probably forward movement. So I will be against it.
We'll make, we'll discuss, we need to
Let's vote.
discuss, because we haven't really, I guess, gotten back to it. I mean,
The
I
next,
thought we were moving forward on stuff. You know, and we did, we had legal meetings and we,
Circle.
It's,
I agree.
this all comes as a big surprise.
Let's vote on it.
Morgan, maybe I could have, if it is indeed an effort to have open discussion with the opportunity to make a decision, to provide them with service, that doesn't mean we have to. We have that opportunity, I'm in favor of it.
And that could happen at the next meeting. That could totally
You're
happen.
saying it's not allowed at the next meeting,
You
No,
may not be here at the next meeting to vote on
more than likely, yes.
no,
I would say
and
in
that,
that
and
case,
that's true, okay?
They were-
It's just, I think from a legal perspective, we just gotta say, okay, it's not a tabled issue, it is an open issue to the board.
It can be voted on at any time.
Right.
Right, but we're not guaranteeing that's gonna be voted at any particular time. Right. It's always open.
it will always be open. I would agree to this motion if there was a guaranteed motion to vote on or not at the next meeting.
Not agreeing.
I'm not guaranteeing that,
I understand.
guaranteed to open discussion on it.
I understand.
And we
It's
got
a
a second,
CYA
got
motion.
a second to that point.
Okay.
And we're-
Yeah.
There's a motion, let's vote on
I know what
Anything
I'm.
else? Okay.
Okay.
All in favor of having an agenda item next time? Everybody but me is in favor, and I oppose for reasons stated. Motion passes. There will be a general discussion
All right, then I got a
on
second,
the motion,
got another motion,
on the agenda.
we got one more motion.
Okay,
No, this all comes out of the executive stuff. I motion that we meet, set up a meeting to go over the Fed, legal issues with the lawyer again. Because of the issue that some of us may not be here in the following meeting, which give, maybe in a couple of weeks, we can meet or prior to the election. And at least get an idea from the standpoint of where we are with this. He's gonna go to he's gonna do some stuff, you know, in terms of moving it. So we'll have some more information at that point in time.
So you would like to meet, you would like to have another information session prior to the election?
Right. Well, yeah, because after the election, if I'm voted out, I'm out. I have no say in it. But I would like to be able to have this body together with, again,
Well, so at the next regular meeting,
it after the election.
it is after the election, but the new directors will not have been seated yet, I believe. So, just so you know the time,
will I still be in a position to vote?
you will still be a director at the May 13th meeting, yes.
Okay,
So
then
there's,
we can meet then.
okay, so there'll be no need to meet.
I don't believe so, that's why I
And
asked.
that's why I'm bringing this up, because I don't want to be caught, you know, blindsided by the, you know, fact that, you know, something happens at the election and then you're going, and then somebody else is voting, you know, on, that would affect me.
Right, no, I don't, I'll confirm that.
Yeah, can you confirm that? Because if that's not the case, then I think we need to be able to have, a meeting with this body and the attorney just to discuss where we are and what's gonna go forward. So at least from my point of view, I understand how I stand. That makes sense? Because after we're voted out, after May, you're not gonna make me say if you're voted out.
Well, fine, but even if I'm out, why would I have this meeting in a couple weeks? Unless you're somehow saying we're going to make some final decisions.
Yeah,
And before the new board comes in, you could do that, kind of a lame duck session,
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's a
I
problem.
would like to be able to have the opportunity, if there's something that's gonna affect me, to make some decisions.
Oh, you wanna have a lean duck session? Yeah, I'm philosophically not in favor of that. I mean, if I'm out, I'm out.
Yeah, but I don't want somebody else. in
Then make
charge.
it-
That will be the May meeting anyway.
Huh?
That's the May meeting
That's
anyway.
what he's gonna verify.
Yeah.
That,
They would have to have time to come in.
I need to make a statement for the record before this. I'm gonna go home and listen to the February 7/11 meeting. Because I do not personally remember ever saying that we we're going to table the federal center. Now, I may have been in the hospital. I may not have been at this meeting, and I may not have had my brains on straight. But I do not remember ever voting on tabling anything with the federal center. Well, I want to listen to that meeting and I want to make sure, but I want it on the record that I'm saying this because I don't remember.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, the main meeting, you will be a director regardless of the outcome of
For a few days.
election.
okay, that's fine. I just wanna make sure I cover my fat Syria.
So when do the new directors accept their, or take their positions in June?
They will be seated in June. They'll take their oaths in May.
And they'll become directors after they take their oath.
Yes.
Is, is there any equal reason we have not previously published a map of our lines of capacity? I mean, we have it here, but can we put that online for the lines? We have not done that.
Yeah, it's critical infrastructure, and I think it is generally the position of staff that's sensitive.
Okay. Is there a way to, maybe, and I can ask this offline, but I'm thinking of a map of all of our lines that have been, over 70% capacity. That we can't do that, if we can do something like that, because that will come up in relation to this 12-11 thing. Now, everybody, it would just be easier to say that we do have capacity issues, here we have identified them, not that any legislators will look.
Yeah, some sort of gross resolution that will be sensitive, I think.
Okay, even I am done, anybody else, something, anything? All right, we'll call the meeting adjourned at 10:59. Thank you all.